When you wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning with the worst of Tim for the last 40 years, you know, what do you do? How do you break that cycle? Because that cycle
Awesome.
is brutal.
Great. Freaking love it. Okay, because this was the very place I developed what I've developed to help others because it helped me. Now, I want everybody right now to think of your mind like a garden. Okay, whatever you water will grow. And for years, I was watering the weeds of stress.
Shit, yeah.
And what happened was those weeds of stress grew, 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 and then eyeballs popped out of them and they became sentient. They understood what I did that would feed them, and they also understood the thing that I did that would starve them. Okay, so subtle form of this is before you go to the gym, there might be a part of you goes, "Oh, I don't want to do this really. Let's do it later." That's the disempowered parts of you that know you're about to be powerful and they're about to be kicked out.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, a show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today I've got Tim Thomas with me. Tim has developed a fierce passion for restoring sleep because we both realize how important that is. I mean, I'm nowadays fiercely protective of it. So is Tim. And he's helping men out there to regain the control over their sleep and as trying to figure out how can we all actually live our life to the fullest. And you really need to do so by actually putting a sound foundation there. And which thing is better to address than sleep? Tim, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Great to be here. I've a sense that we're going to have an amazing hour together. And everyone listening, strap in because this is going to be happening.
That's true. But here we are, kind of two type A personalities. To give it away, you have been in the past in the armed forces in Australia, and you're a go-getter. Come on, man. Tell us a bit about that time, because then from there we need to really say, okay, that is really not rest and rejuvenation. This is kick ass and take numbers, isn't it?
Well, that's it. That's how I end up becoming so good at restoring myself because I was so good at breaking myself. Okay,
I
I was
love
I was a
it.
black belt. I was a black belt and fucking myself up, right? As are a lot of other blokes out there. But if you go full circle into that, you actually become a black belt healer. You have to. You really have to. Otherwise, there comes a time, for a few years there, I stopped laughing. For a few years there, I stopped seeing beautiful things. It was just two colors, safe, not safe. And
Interesting.
and from that place, and this is what I say, guys, you might not think you're special, but I bet you've been through some shit. And us as men, we got to turn that shit into fertilizer. The stinkiest shit makes the best fertilizer. And you know what? It might take you a day, a week, a year, a decade to get through that shit and turn it into fertilizer. But guess what? That's the amount of time you're going to be able to save other people.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Shit into fertilizer. Well, I have got a lot of fertilizer. Damn it.
That's it. That's the spirit.
I can create a bomb that is bigger than the one that blew up Beirut for crying out loud with the bloody hell. So,
Yeah,
have,
that is the powder behind your charge.
hmm,
That is the the thing that's gonna be the powder behind your projectile. So in a
hmm,
rifle, you've got propellant and the projectile. That shit we've gone through, that's
hmm.
propellant, you know, and done right. And it's not until you've got a lot of shit that you realize um, we're in an age of information. We're not in an age of information. Okay, we're in an age of marketing. First six pages of Google are marketers. There's a big difference between a marketer and a healer.
Hmm.
Because for us to deal with our shit, we've got to find a healer. And um, the problem with marketing is they're very good at speaking those unspoken words inside our hearts. Like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, just shut up and take my money. I did want that one thing that'll make all the difference. Because when we're hurting, we want Superman, the one thing that'll knock it out and get us out of this pain, right? And it's quite vulnerable in that place. And I'll just share with you just to get real, because this really happened. In 2011, April, I was about to kill a man. Okay. The government wasn't paying me. I was going to do this one free. This was going to be murder. And what had happened, Stefan, is I'd reached rock bottom. I'd got out in the forces in 2010. I was drinking a lot. Family was falling apart. So I did what I thought you're supposed to do, is go to a psychologist. So I went to this guy and I'm like, this guy isn't just incompetent. Incompetency I can handle. He was completely apathetic. And after I told him all this stuff, he goes, "Oh, you think it was a problem with your mum and dad?" And everything went still for a second. You know, that tick, tick, and the clock, it just went, zhik. Time froze. And I became immediately aware of all the objects in the room. And he had a glass frame psychology degree behind him. And I'm like, in my state of disconnect, it made a lot of sense to grab that glass frame and feed it down his throat and watch the life bleed out his eyes, because that motherfucker should not be healing. He's hurting people. He's not healing people. He's hurting people, And so I get out of my chair to do it, And as I get out of my chair to do it, I feel this hand on my chest, a literal hand on my chest saying, "Tim, red light. You are the toughest mofo you know. Think for a second. How many other people are struggling in the same thing, with the same thing, in a system that doesn't seem to want you better?" And Stan, that's when I sat back down and I saw them. I saw thousands of people hurting with the same pain that I was hurting with. And they're all looking into the center saying, "Tim, you can find a way forward for you. You can find a way forward for us." And that's when I said, okay, it doesn't matter if it takes me a week, a month, a decade. I'm finding a way forward, because I'm pretty sure that's the amount of time I'm going to be able to save these guys. I'll be able to do for them what took me much more time in far less time, if you know what I mean. And so, when I talk to guys about starting their healing journey, healing takes surprisingly little time. What takes a long time is finding the right healer. It took me 6 years to find a good psychologist who did for me in 15 minutes what no one else could do in probably 50 years, in 15 minutes. All right. But the thing is, so many people, I've heard this. I tried to get help. The help didn't help. In fact, it made it worse. All right. And one thing, and I'm dyslexic, so I failed high school, but my pattern recognition is in the top percentile. And the pattern I saw was that trauma goes down deeper than simple words can reach. And Absolutely. The psychologists haven't figured that out yet. It's like they've got a rifle that can shoot 200 meters, but our target is 2Ks away. And they're saying, "Look, I'm shooting in the right direction. I've spent 7 years building this gun. I do it every day." And the person like, "Well, you're not hitting my targets." But then they'll often blame themselves. "Oh, maybe my fault." Now, nice. I genuinely believe if a healer is good at what they do, and I've experienced this personally, this isn't just me saying it, they can heal you in 3 sessions. That they're the good ones. And if you have to go for months, years, I think you're at the wrong place. But what no one tells you is how hard it is to find a healer. And unfortunately, most guys especially, we don't seek help until it's like rock bottom, everything's gone nuts, and you needed something yesterday, and I'll take whatever now. And you know what, that 18-year-old person out of university who happens to be available when you need them right now might not be the best suited person. And don't get me started. When I said I couldn't sleep because of all this stuff in my head, I lost 6 years of my life to pills. I was a zombified pill eater for 6 years. And I'm not getting that time back. And no one tells you how hard it is to get off these things or the cost of taking.
Interesting. Fighting words there spoken, but I actually agree with you. It is so hard sometimes because you don't know what you don't know. You think, he's a psychologist. He or she really knows what she is talking about. And I guess to a certain degree they do, but it's also a little bit more multifaceted, as you said, because often enough there is denial. often enough, there are hurdles that either maybe through our childhood, through our coping mechanisms, we are putting in front of ourselves. So, there is, I mean, if you look at the people who are drinking dangerously too much, okay, let's call them alcoholics with an old-fashioned word. 95% of them, complete denial. They will tell you, no, I've got no problem with me. So even if the teacher might have the right ideas, is actually the person willing to accept that? Is the person willing to do the work? Is the person willing to break down just their walls in front of them, just that little bit, enough for something to come through? And certainly there was a time in my life when I thought I know it all. And was I ready to be really humble and to actually take it on the chin and take extreme ownership, take an ownership of those things where I always blamed others. And I think, how long did you blame others? And there are always assholes who are coming into our lives. There
Oh
are enough
yeah,
people
yeah.
to blame, isn't it? How was that with
Well,
you?
I really hear what you're saying there, and what you're speaking to in my experience of it is whether it's blame, whether it's childhood, whether it's whatever we go across, we put things in the way of us connecting to others. Okay.
Hmm,
Now, human connection is so incredibly powerful. Like
hmm,
I put it, Stefan, if you know I got your back 100%,
hmm,
and I know you've got my back 100%, like, holy crap, nothing else matters. Everything else is a very small detail.
hmm.
Bring on the hard times.
I love
Okay.
it. Yep.
But the opposite is also true. And this was my experience of pain. Being dyslexic, I saw a pattern that repeatedly happened. It doesn't matter if the pain's emotional or physical, it gets to a certain duration or intensity where it transforms without the person even knowing to loneliness, isolation.
Hmm,
I'm the only one going through that. And it's in those places they'll put things in the way of, oh, I've got this and that person's pissing me off. And don't get me started when I'm driving traffic. Everyone's, out to get me and I out to get them, right?
yeah.
So those blockages really show up when you've been in pain for a duration and it's transformed without you knowing that I'm alone, I'm isolated. So one thing that really worked for me and my sort of modality was the veteran space. Okay.
Hmm,
And I just invite everybody to ask this question so you can be with it. I don't want to have any separation between veteran and civilians, or what I'm trying to say is what you're up against. Okay. Think of the shit you're going through. Ask yourself this question: how many other people do you think are in the same situation?
hmm,
Okay. And there's a number to that. That's not woo woo. All right. And if you picture those people left and right of you,
hmm,
that is the first way to break your own isolation, because everyone's up against something. And if you can make a way forward for you, you can make a way forward for them. So I don't want to just have me sharing here. I want everybody to be, on the
hmm,
front of their seats, knowing that they have a capacity to speak words to others, to
hmm,
break their isolation. So we have these unspoken, us blokes especially, it's like us blokes have got these unspoken words deep inside our hearts that we need to hear another man say who's walked that path and and break that isolation,
hmm,
break those rocks around our hearts.
hmm,
And once that isolation is broken,
hmm,
then you can actually work with something. Because if I'm fully isolated, I can be in front of the best psychologist. Screw him, what does he know?
hmm,
But the other thing that happens when people are isolated and feeling alone is they can't drop their guard.
hmm,
They're so focused to the external threats that they can't relax, drop their guard, because if they
hmm,
did, something bad's going to be happening and it's
hmm,
my fault. So what there was two things. I had this goal of saving 40 veteran lives from suicide. I didn't care if it worked the rest of my life. I said I'd die happy if I achieved that. That was achieved within 12 months, Stefan, because I saw that once you broke someone's isolation,
hmm,
you know, and the isolation I could break was the one that I could speak to was in veteran space. Now, everyone listening, whatever you're up against right now, you have the qualifications to break the isolation of
hmm,
people who are up against what you're up against, and they're
hmm,
out there.
hmm,
But in my case with veterans, I noticed break the isolation and then get them out of fatigue. Because if you've been the only one that's had your back, um, you're often very fatigued. Okay. And the reason I'm so passionate about sleep is if you think about everything you've got in your life, everything, relationships, stuff, work, fun, all of that is the quality of all of that is relative to the quality of your sleep.
100%.
Okay.
Mm.
Picture sleep being the soil from which everything grows. And in this world, it's not so much health and fitness, it's health and beauty. You've got to have the good looking trunk, you've got to have the fruit in your life, and if you don't have the trunk where the way you want it to wear, if you don't have the fruit in your life that you want, there's plenty of people that'll sell you very topical treatments to fix that, right? But someone who really understands what growth is, they'll go into the unseen, they'll go into the soil.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, I can't do what you do, Stefan, but if I can help improve your sleep, then everything gets better. And the people that are on here, and this is why
Mm.
I'm on a podcast, because people that are listening to this are seekers of information. So
Mm.
I want you to see that it's not just sleep that gets me super excited or should get you excited. It's all those seeds of greatness, seeds of uniqueness are laying dormant until the right soil conditions come about. So when you improve the soil, you won't just improve what's existing, you'll grow stuff that you never even knew was there.
Mm.
And you cannot not stop them because sleep has an accumulative damage as well as an accumulative benefit. So picture you one night no good
Mm.
sleep, a week without good
Absolutely.
sleep, a year without good sleep. Picture you one night good sleep, a week really good sleep, a year of amazing sleep. Okay? So us blokes, and this is how I explain it, we love performance. We love hitting targets. We love kicking ass, making bank, doing all these things, right? Think of performance like a pyramid, and that's the top of the pyramid. All right. And the bottom of the pyramid is your rest, recovery, and healing art forms. All right.
Mm.
Now, I noticed that as I age, I can still perform high, but I've got to widen my
Mm.
rest and recovery
Mm.
and get really specialized in my rest and recovery. And once you get a handle on that, you get to see that, and I'll just go into this because a lot of guys think if they're sitting down doing nothing, they're actually doing nothing. And we often have self-worth tied up into what we do, right? It's all about doing. Firstly, and I want to give people this so they can use it, the ability to sit and do nothing, I could only do that. When I saw it I called it a bow moment or a bow day. So think of a bow and arrow, right? Now there's a target out there that I want to hit. I'm super excited to hit that target, right? But first up, the arrow has to go away from the target. And as it's going away from the target, it's creating momentum. So as much as, sitting there meditating, doing breath work, that's my favorite thing,
Mm.
doing a restorative practice, having a day where you just don't give zero fucks, that restorative process, even though it's a bit frustrating, is drawing the bow back.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So otherwise, what I've done in the past is, I just keep trying harder. And it's just these little limp wristed shots as opposed to stop, breathe. Initially, it is frustrating, but no, when it comes time to loose that arrow, you're hitting that target. So I kind of lost my track there, but
No,
getting
100% agree with you. We need those moments, and we need the sleep because that's the bottom line. That's the base from the foundation that we create. But what you are also pointing towards are the micro pauses in the day, and the way I call them, those moments where you just actually rest and actually just accept. And for example, 10 minutes of breathing, of breath work is beautiful. It's completely
oh yeah,
rejuvenating me to actually talk to the wind or talk to the sun or talk to a tree. How stupid it sounds.
no,
For me,
whatever
that
it is, if it's
well, that's
stupid and
right.
it works, it's stupid.
I couldn't agree more. So, to actually just verbalize certain things, because what we have got is all this maelstrom of thoughts up there. We've got 80,000 thoughts a day or thereabouts, and 80% of them are negative. And that's ideal for the survival of mankind because we are constantly worried that a bear will eat us or a saber-toothed tiger will eat us. You know, lots of things that eat us. But having said that, that is nowadays really no longer so applicable. But we still got the same sympathetic drive as a response to all these worries.
Yeah.
Yet we have, especially, and it's getting worse and worse and worse nowadays because we have not learned to switch off. Whilst in the past, switching off was maybe more related to the sun setting. And, you know, you had some
Yeah,
candles
we've
200
broken the
years.
natural cycle and a lot of unnatural things are happening. And we've got this
Exactly.
intergenerational survival mechanism, like the people that mistook a rock for a bear were the ones that survived as opposed to the ones that thought a bear was a rock. Okay, so you have to understand that you're stressed. Sometimes it's not necessarily yourself. It's been passed down intergenerationally.
Absolutely.
Okay, in my case, I've never met my great great grandfather, but I'm pretty sure he was an angry dude. Okay, because I've had this anger run in me, and then I had to say, look, I don't have the privilege. This is quite sobering for me. I don't have the privilege of taking this to the grave with me. Okay, this is won't die with me. You know that I'm going to be passing this down to my kids, passing it down to everyone who knows me. So my favorite saying is, "Anger ran in my family until it ran into me."
Ooh, I love it. How did you manage to do that? I managed to do it too. I don't know how. Nowadays, I'm no longer an angry dude.
Okay.
And I don't know how I achieved that. So, was that something conscious that you were able to do, or
Yes.
was it just with
Well,
you growing?
if you just see all your emotions as energy,
Yeah.
that's how you use that energy. So I used my anger and I became a professional fighter.
Oh,
Okay, where there's ways to use all energy that are destructive and unproductive,
yeah,
and there's ways to use energy that's constructive and productive.
yeah.
And so as much as I'm fighting and there was blood, injuries, whatever, afterwards there was more peace, more joy, more
Oh,
love. So
oh,
you don't judge an activity, you judge it by the fruits of the labor.
yeah.
Okay. And so a lot of people, I got some very conservative friends, they said, oh, fighting wrong, rah, rah. And I'm like, you don't see, I'm getting all these really awesome things out of it. You don't see it from you can't see it because you're not experiencing it. Um, but I could have very easily been that guy that just down the pub and had a
Yeah,
bad reputation and would,
sure.
you know,
When you were saying fighting, were you now referring to your time in the commandos, or were
no,
you
no, no.
referring
Oh,
later on in martial arts and
no, no, I'm talking about before I was in the commandos.
yeah,
I was the equivalent to a professional fighter, but this is kind of like before UFC. There
right.
was there was no money in it. I mean, you did get paid technically, but it was just sort of semi-legal in these sort of biker bars and
Hmm,
you know, um, but that's how I'm just saying you are how I channeled my anger. I
hmm.
just used it in a place where it was welcome,
So
and used
Australian foreplay, basically.
you
Okay,
got me.
sorry, I had to put that in there. We might cut that out. We might not. I don't care. Okay, brother. No, I see that. So the anger, where did the anger come from? You say, I mean,
Well,
generations ago, but I
well,
mean, there's,
like I said, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I have never met my, you know, great great, but I've met my father and my grandfather, and they had this thing where if things didn't go their way, they kind of snapped into this angry
yeah.
mode, and they were around women that sort of go, "Oh, he's angry. He can, give the baby his bottle." And I had to admit that a lot of that had infused into me, and my natural reaction was get angry.
Mm,
I kind of defined myself as that guy that had a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
mm,
Um, but what I realized, and this is what I tell my son, um, is that a man's happiness and generosity is relative to how powerful he feels.
mm,
And I tell my son that actually starts with our bodies.
mm,
Our bodies are the first place we start with to feel powerful. And there's something that happens when, and I would add one thing, our level of happiness, generosity, and also the level to which we can relax is relative to how powerful we feel.
mm,
And there's something about a powerful masculine that naturally happens. People start feeling safe around them.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, I can relax and feel safe.
Mm.
Conversely, if you want to see a stingy, unhappy guy, they're not connected to their power.
Mm.
And then you'll see guys that, oh, he's a bit of a badass, he's a weak ass because he is so disempowered. He has to take power from others.
Very
See how
good.
that works?
Very good. Oh, I absolutely agree,
So,
100%.
so if we're going to be sovereign, we have to start by empowering ourselves, connecting to ourselves. Obviously, that's pretty hard to do if you're not sleeping properly,
Mm.
because then we get addicted. Like energy is like money. How you invest it's how you get it back.
Mm.
And if I wake up and if I wake up and I'm short on energy, well, I need a loan. On a good day, that might be a coffee or a beer. On a bad day, I take it from others. I become the a-hole, because I need energy. So I just take it from others. And then you wonder why there's so many a-holes on the planet,
Mm.
because they need energy. They can't make it for themselves. So they've got to take from others. And there's
Mm.
people that get exceptionally good at taking from others,
Mm.
and we've all been taken from. But what we need to see is, if you're at 50 cents of energy and someone takes 25 cents,
Mm.
then that's a massive draw,
Mm.
and you'll try and chase it, right? But if you know the next day you make $1 million, you're like, okay, you can keep it. You've missed out on
Mm.
the rest of my life. I'm going to keep on going on to make $1 million. But if you spend the next 7 days chasing 25 cents, you're
Yeah.
already, you know, so my vision for everybody is to live as energetic millionaires, you
Nice.
know,
Nice.
because essentially I sort of see humans as this, that we're like an energetic signature that comes into the earth that gets meat attached to it. And when we get this meat bag lined up with the energetic signature inside of us, that's when we light up. We get
Mm.
more love, more peace, more joy, all the best parts of life. When this bag of meat lines up with the things that we're
Mm.
most, aligned with, and it's one thing to build yourself up. But if you think about it as, and I only discovered this in Afghanistan. I was in this extreme state of fatigue, beyond tired. We'd lost guys, legs, and been blown off others. I was in the dirt. But when I started getting myself out using breath work, I realized I can be 100%, but if my team's not 100%, that's impacting on me.
Mm.
And so I said, I've got to, if I'm going to be fully connected, I need other people to be connected as well.
Mm.
But I made a mistake in that space, and a lot of people do. And that was, I was giving of myself, I wasn't giving of my abundance. Okay, so these days, I don't give of myself anymore. I give of my abundance. So if I'm at 100% and I give someone 10%,
Mm.
then somewhere inside of my head, I'm like, I'm down to 90%.
Yeah.
You've got 10%. You goddamn do something with that, right?
Yeah.
But if I generate 500%, I can be generous with 20% a day. People can love it, hate it, tell me to F off. It doesn't matter. I'm in touch with something so much
Nice.
bigger than what
Nice.
can be taken.
Nice. Nice. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. And it's this emotional bank account, isn't it? We so often keep withdrawing, 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 and then wonder why suddenly the bank
The
calls and says,
nastiest people often start off as the most generous because
okay,
they gave, well, took, and then they're like, fuck you. And
exactly.
then they try and take back from other humans. It's like, trying to take from other zeros.
Mm.
People only take from you because they are a zero. So even if you were to, you know, try and exact some revenge, you're not going to get back what was taken. There's plenty
Mm.
of people in jail that have killed the person that have wronged them, and they're still pissed off even though they've killed them.
Yeah,
So
very
the
good point.
idea is, the idea is, healing is important, but that gets you to the point. Once you're healed, you're at the starting line of your purpose.
Mm.
And us blokes, once we get our purpose, and this is what I notice, and this is what's so super cool, they pour millions of dollars of resources into veteran recovery, but they weren't seeing what I saw, and this wasn't on the spreadsheet. They weren't seeing that if the person's isolated and fatigued,
Mm.
those resources just water off a duck's back.
Absolutely.
So I noticed that if we could break their fatigue, get them out of isolation, it's
Mm.
like they had this inner compass covered in shit, and it got cleaned off once they were out of fatigue and feeling
Yeah.
connected. And then they knew exactly where to go. It's like
Mm. Mm.
automatically happens. So, and it's amazing how little you need when you understand what's truly needed.
100% agreed. Uh, Having said all that, the principles are clear, I think, to everyone. But when you're in the middle of the darkness, when you're in the middle of a lifestyle where you're constantly hypervigilant, where you're constantly seeing the darkness, where you're constantly seeing threats coming from everywhere, and most of them probably coming from inside of you.
Oh yeah.
Um, when you wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning with the worst of Tim for the last 40 years, you know, what do you do? How do you break that cycle? Because that cycle
Awesome.
is brutal.
Great. Freaking love it. Okay, because this was the very place I developed what I've developed to help others because it helped me. Now, you need to understand why this happens, and then I'll talk about um, solutions. And I'll
Mm.
also, before this end of this podcast, I'm going to show you how, in 3 breaths, completely relax your body and mind. Okay.
Okay.
So there is some, I don't like just talking about stuff. I was that guy that when I was in PTSD, all these bosses would come in and go, here's what we know about PTSD. And I'm like, awesome. I already know that. What can I do right now? And they're like, oh, we're not
Excellent.
at that stage. We just understand. I'm like, you're dead to me. So I didn't want to be that type of guy. So by the end of this, people are going to get practical tips, right? So
Okay.
this is just a nice story. I want permanency is very much part of what I'm trying to do here.
I like
So
that.
so we are gonna tap into something that you can immediately do, but I want everybody right now to think of your mind like a garden. Okay, whatever you water will grow. And for years, I was watering the weeds of stress.
Shit, yeah.
And what happened was those weeds of stress grew, 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 and then eyeballs popped out of them and they became sentient. They understood what I did that would feed them, and they also understood the thing that I did that would starve them. Okay, so subtle form of this is before you go to the gym, there might be a part of you goes, oh, I don't want to do this really. Let's do it later. That's the disempowered parts of you that know you're about to be powerful and they're about to be kicked out. And they scream the loudest before they kicked out. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
so so if you keep watering that, that's going to get bigger and bigger, and then it will actually start running the show. So I'd been watering the weeds of stress for years. It was 3 a.m. I'd gotten divorced, lost my house, my home, access to kids, all the things that really keep you up at night. And even though I was a breathwork coach, and even though I knew my breath could override my racing thoughts, it's like I couldn't. Those stress weeds had me so locked into place. Okay, and no word of a lie, it was about 3 a.m. I'm either going to be doing self harm or I'm going to be, sculling a bunch of pills and alcohol. But I looked at my left thumb and I said, Tim, you can take one breath. Take one fucking breath. And I drove it into my chest as hard as I could. And I went, okay, that works. Take two, take two. And I grabbed 2 fingers and drove it into my chest. Okay, this is working. Three, three, three. And then get to five, get to five. Now 6 to 10. And then somewhere between 15 and 25 breaths, the stress weeds got kicked out. And the rest of my brain was like, thank goodness you kicked them out. Keep breathing. This is working. Okay. So
I love it.
so it's breath working is both conscious and unconscious, but there are parts of us that are sentient that if we've been watering for a long time will keep us away from doing the things that'll heal us. Okay, breathing was just one example, right?
Yeah,
But if you are going to breathe for medicine, it does need to be coached so
yeah.
you can breathe a certain way to a certain cadence to create the healing and chemicals needed. Because I just want to explain here why breath work is so important or so powerful. And it's not like meditation where thoughts are controlling thoughts. Okay. Some people can do that, but if your thoughts are all over the shop, it's pretty hard to do that. Breath work is a chemical override. Okay. It's a chemical override, and I'll explain why that works. So think of us as living organisms. Before we were thinking, before we were putting paint on rock walls, we were breathing. Okay. Before we were speaking, we were breathing. And that deep ancient wiring still lives inside of us. So when we breathe, our breath outranks our thoughts, our breath outranks our words. You can breathe into a certain state where you alkalize your neural pathways, and that shit that's in your head, boom. And the thing is, this is the warning. First, 15 to 20 breaths, you'll have a big party going, this is bullshit. It's not going to work. It's bullshit. Okay. Because they know you'll get to a certain point where they're gone. And so many times at 3 a.m. I've hit that, I've got a little product that helps you get to sleep and get back to sleep because it's pretty lonely at 3 a.m. You can hit that button and guide your breath, and all the time there's a part of me going, this is bullshit, it won't work, and then oh, it's working, boom. So I'm just explaining why breath work is powerful, but there is opposition to it. Be ready for the opposition, because then you'll go, oh, that's what that guy was talking about. All
Yeah.
right. So just be mindful of that. Does that answer your question, Stefan?
Oh, 100%. I mean, from breath coach to breath coach, man, you explained it really, really, really well. And incidentally, last night I was actually just a little bit ratty, and I felt my mind was racing and just one thought after the other. And I caught myself and I thought, what the hell are you doing here? And it was luckily it was none of the 3 o'clock in the morning bullshit. It was just before going to bed, but a lot of things sort of ruminated. And it's like when you go to the gym, initially you look at the smallest weight and you can barely lift it. And then after 6 months,
One
you're throwing those around as if there is no tomorrow. And here is the same thing when it comes to breath work. We can learn and we can teach our body to become far more effective with it. So those little weights, just as much as you go after 6 months straight for a decent amount of weight because your muscles are used to it. It's the same with the breath work. So
Oh
last
yeah.
night, 3 breaths, and I had calmed my mind down. Before we started this interview, what did I do? I took a long, deep breath and actually calmed myself down. With one breath, I've got it now, in most situations, down
Yeah.
to a fine art. So
Well,
it's
the
so
Chinese for
wonderful. Indeed. And
thousands of years been saying control your breath, control everything. Yeah.
absolutely. So it's up 100% right. And I love the way that you have simplified it this way. And it is so bizarre because it's so simple, therefore it's often overlooked. People hear
No
breath
one's making
work.
money from it. That's why we don't
Ah,
hear about it.
touche, touche. Ooh, maybe, yeah, maybe we need to. I
Well,
don't
if
know.
you became truly sovereign and powerful, you wouldn't have to fork over your money to all these quick fixes.
Ooh,
All these
ouch.
people are redundant. Once you see the power underneath your own skin, you become
Oh,
sovereign, and a lot of stuff becomes redundant. So you have to realize that it's sobering for me to think that my life is not worth nearly as much as I think it is. Okay. They're seeing dollars in me. I have to see the value of my own life. Okay. And I have to see the unseen value in me before anyone else sees it.
yeah,
And developing that and being the person that gives you that sense of self-worth,
yeah.
then you stop looking for it outside of you. Because that's how we get trapped in the loop of, oh, I just need more of this or more of that. And it's good to have stuff, nothing wrong with it, but imagine before you left the door for, whatever reason, you could give yourself everything you truly needed, and the rest of the day is just a victory lap.
Oh, it's so good. I think that we underestimate in our modern society the importance of staying still, of providing that moment of pause, of just letting yourself be, because that's the time when the universe or whoever is out there is actually implanting some really good thoughts into you. It is, having said that, when you're actually racing around like a madman and constantly keep yourself distracted because you don't like your own
Mm.
emotions, you don't like your own, the way you feel, you don't like anything about yourself because you're actually believing the voices in your head that are
Yeah,
saying
we're
you're
chasing
a
dopamine like a
failure.
Panadol for a broken leg.
Oh, please, but I mean, these voices are there, and they, in my mind, they have been quite brutal. You're a
Mm,
failure. You're
mm,
unworthy. No one
yep.
loves you. You're a fat fuck. And
Mm.
it's very, very harsh words. These were the nice words, by the way. They have some
Mm.
harsher words in my brain.
Yeah.
Do you still get them?
Me, well, of course, I'm human, but it's a bit like ice baths, right? I probably do two, sometimes three ice baths a day, right? And people say, you've done so many ice baths, does it get easier? I'm like, absolutely not. What gets easier is me letting go of that which is in the way of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Because when we are 100% in this moment,
yeah.
there's really nothing. We start realizing the power we have and how futile it is to chase power outside of us. Okay,
Hmm,
let me just lay this on you, right?
hmm,
So you and me, if we got on a set of scales, would weigh a certain amount of kilos or pounds, right?
hmm,
And that's a measurement of mass. And right now, I'm in Queensland, Australia. That would be about 4:30 in the afternoon. So our mass is stuck at 4:30 in the afternoon. But there's something else you, me, all the listeners have that is very important, and that is a mind, a thinking mind. Now, our mind, if we put it on the scales, does not contain any mass. You can't weigh it. That's an obvious but important statement because without mass, there's nothing holding it to this moment. So, this mind, not containing any mass, can go into yesterday. It can go into tomorrow. It can play out scenarios in different places, right?
yeah.
And but not omnipotent. It's still got a processing power. Let's just say of 100%. So my mass is stuck here, but my mind, I might have 20% in the past. And that's given me 80% right here.
Hmm,
And then there's something I'm worried about in the future.
hmm.
That could be taken up, let's just say 30%. So I'm down to 50% of processing power in this moment. I've
Nice.
spread thin. You know what? Life is pretty goddamn hard when I'm at 50% because life is hard when I'm at 50%. So that's why I'm such a fan of some kind of physical discipline, especially early in the
Yeah.
morning, to get your mind in and anchored in your body. Because you have to understand your mind
Hmm,
wants one thing, and that's stimuli. We're high stimuli creatures. And if we don't get
hmm,
it from this current moment, 4:30 p.m. from our mass,
hmm,
it'll go through space and time looking for stimuli. And if you've ever wondered why you can have 100 good events and one bad event, you remember the bad event,
hmm,
because the negative events are usually the highest stimuli. Okay.
hmm,
So if you don't, a wise man knows if you don't choose your stimuli mindfully
hmm,
and give your mind the stimuli it needs, especially through the body,
hmm,
then there's nothing holding it here.
hmm,
It'll go through space and time. And I put it to you, when you're at 100%, Stefan,
hmm,
there's not a goddamn thing that you can't do.
hmm,
All these things start falling away that you think are important because you
hmm,
got this. But when you or me, when we're at 50% or lower, and we just think it's normal, right?
hmm.
And I think that's why alcohol is so attractive because it sort of pulls everything back in the moment. You're even struggling to stand up. It's like a messed up mindfulness because you can't think of anything else, right? All this stimuli from your own body. But the point I'm trying to make here is
Hmm.
um, when you if we've got something in our bodies that if we don't choose for it, it chooses for us.
Nicely said. Yeah, exactly. But
So
also
when
there's
it comes to
we have got a power therefore. We
oh
have got a power
yeah,
of choice, and that is so often forgotten. We are making us victims because we are not actually accepting the responsibility of making choices and then living with the consequences. We are somehow just floating around like a cork on the surface of the ocean, when in reality we can very much choose. We have got the energy. We have got the
yep,
energy. We have. You were saying earlier with regards to the example of the bow and arrow. I like that
Mhm.
example a lot because the same energy is actually there. Now, many of us don't know what to do with this energy, and this energy grows and bends and does things until it either explodes or implodes. Explodes in the anger, implodes as depression, as all the negative emotions, other negative,
Mm.
sort of more passive emotions. Whilst if we're actually using or creating new habits, sticking with forms of discipline, forcing ourselves to get up in the morning, see the sunshine, do some bit of physical exercise, for Christ's sake, 2 minutes of it, and actually just do here and now, do some breathing, do some gratitude. The whole thing that I described could be 5, 7 minutes. You're really telling me you don't have the time for that? No, but if you're starting to set yourself up like that and then start one step after the other, force yourself to actually think, okay, who do I want to be when I grow up? What is your goal? What is your passion? What do you really need to do? Focus on something and then work towards that. And then you can use that energy. Then you have got your compass. And then you can actually start pulling back, pulling back, pulling back until you're ready to release that arrow. And that arrow will go straight because now you actually stood still. You actually aimed. For that, you had to stand still. You actually need to figure out where is the target? What is the target? What is my goal? And then use that energy to actually focus down on that. And that is exactly what
Mm.
you're describing. But for that, you need a stable foundation.
Loving this, and I'm sure people who are listening are just going, "Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense." And just to solidify what you're talking about, um, for me, it wasn't until I lost all my money, my house, my home, regular access to my kids after the divorce,
Hmm.
that I realized that this thing here is about where my influence stops. If you're listening, I'm grabbing my skin. Okay. That's where my influence stops. Anything outside of that, I can't control. And you know what? It could be taken from me.
Hmm.
And so I thought, well, guess what? I can control what's underneath my own skin. So that's when I'm like, time to draw the bow back, motherfucker.
Hmm.
So that's when just became the boss of if it's going on underneath my skin, that's what I'm working on. You know, it's
Nice.
it's it's no longer negotiable
Nice.
accessing my physicality in the morning. It's
Yeah.
no longer negotiable doing my breath work. It's no longer negotiable, getting a good night's sleep.
Love it.
All these things came up like these are the things that are non-negotiables for me.
Hmm.
And it's funny that powerful connections underneath your own skin
Yeah.
often lend themselves to powerful connections outside of your own skin. Because guess what? We're not supposed to be living in isolation,
Yeah.
So I regularly get people to line up all the things that are important to them. And just to hammer the point home, imagine all those things in your life, your work,
Yeah.
your loved ones, all that sort of stuff. Imagine you're in a physically and mentally weakened state. Okay. Your work might not be as secure. Your family would still love you, but their life might be a bit harder.
Yeah.
Conversely, in
Absolutely.
a strong physical and mental state, their life's better. Your work's more secure. Everything is better. So when you're accessing your physical body,
Yeah.
you're not being selfish when you look after yourself, when you
Yeah.
invest in yourself, because that's the best thing you can do. To be generous with others, we give of our abundance.
Yeah.
We don't give of ourselves. Otherwise, you're like, giving you so much, get lost.
100% right.
So yeah, that was the tipping point for me, and very much my birthing point when I lost everything. I looked at my own skin. I'm like, there's nothing outside of it I can control.
Hmm.
Guess what? I can control what's underneath it. And it was like a really deep switch. I'm like, no, this is it, you
Hmm.
know.
Love it. Absolutely love it, man. Ah, you're so right. There is so much that we can do. And I think we need to learn, especially as men, we need to learn to take that power back. Unfortunately, there has been a tendency of men to be emasculated, to actually really have their balls cut off. Maybe quite rightly so, because men can do some really stupid things when you think about it. So for some women to say you need to get more in contact with your own feelings, etc. I actually 100% agree
Well,
with
I
that.
think it
It's
plays
just,
into what we said before.
Yeah.
If a man's feeling powerful, he'll
Yeah.
be happy and generous. The
Correct.
world doesn't really understand that. Okay.
Mm.
But if he's not feeling powerful, he'll do
Yeah.
the opposite of what he's there to do.
Yeah.
We're here to make people feel safe around us. And if I'm not feeling powerful, I'll
Mm.
make people feel unsafe around me.
Mm.
Okay. And, from my perspective of the feminine, when she feels safe, she's happy and generous.
Mm.
She builds people up. But if she
Absolutely.
doesn't feel safe, she'll do the opposite of her role, which is she'll tear people down,
Mm.
you know.
Nicely
But
said.
done right, but done right, you've
Mm.
got two happy and generous people giving to each other.
Mm.
And if the man's not powerful, then he'll make people feel unsafe. If the woman feels unsafe, she'll take away people's power.
Absolutely.
And again, that's an observation. If that
Mm.
works for you and you can integrate that, then
Yeah.
please do.
Oh, I think you are so on the money there because when you look at relationships, when you look at when you try to analyze why divorces happen, where relationships break down, you often come to this lack of yin and yang. When a man is not at his best, when he runs on 50%, he is not providing the safe environment for a
Well, he's not
woman
feeling
to be a
powerful. He's
woman.
not feeling, he's not
Exactly.
having a good time himself.
Absolutely. So this woman, therefore, will need to be far more guarded and will need to be, she will not be that beautiful person that you wish she would be, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
there is so much, but there is also a lack of emotional intelligence nowadays in so many people. I certainly, I mean, even all this what we are saying now, 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, yeah, you're right. Not really understanding it, not really feeling
Mm.
it. I had to go through my divorce. I had to go through
Yeah.
some very hard times and do the hard work. And now I'm such a different man. And I'm very grateful for it. I'm not grateful for the pain, the hurt, the loss, the grieving, but I had to go through that in order to be the man now who can
Yeah.
understand the importance of working on yourself, taking ownership, taking brutal responsibility, being raw and authentic with yourself,
Yeah.
humble with yourself, loving yourself, warts and all. And once you actually start loving yourself, then with that comes a strength, an aura, a mana, however you want to call it. That is when we men become men, true masculinity, not that bullshit that we somehow think a man should be. Man,
Yeah.
we're
And
talking
it's
deep.
not there's not enough people talking about humans accessing their own resources.
Hmm.
Like our whole consumer society is based around the fact that you're not enough, you need more. Okay. So
Yep.
whether you're a male or female, you both get it.
Yep.
But for us blokes, it is we almost define ourselves by how much shit we can handle and keep moving.
Touche. Touche.
Like
Absolutely.
I used to get medals for you know doing crap that no one else wanted to do, for longer than
Yeah.
most people could do it.
Yep.
Um, and so it's sort of commended to resilience is often misconstrued with you're not learning the lessons you need to learn. So I needed my head bounced off the concrete, and I'm a tough dude, probably 3 or 4 times before I thought maybe there's a better way of living. Maybe there's a better way of doing things, you know?
No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
Oh, we are sometimes our own worst enemies. But then again, us having these honest but meaningful conversations here, with that, hopefully we can strip away or just help other men to question their own hurdles, the hurdles they often have built for themselves that stop them from seeking help, from exposing themselves to something new. Let that be maybe a counselor or a psychologist. Let that be a new way of thinking, such as maybe learning about breath work, maybe learning about yoga. Which self, which type A personality man would ever think about yoga? Yet
Mhm.
I had guests on my show who were yoga instructors, men who were yoga instructors, who essentially created a safe environment in their yoga class for men to actually do their neurofacial stretches and release some of that crap that is lying in the tissues, lying in the tissues. The
Yeah,
issues lie in the tissues. Um,
yeah.
and suddenly the tears start rolling, and you think, "What the fuck?" Um,
Mm.
but that is okay. That is okay because we are breaking down the walls. We're breaking down the hurdles, the
Well,
obstacles.
and this is the hero's journey. You
Mm,
know, you ask yourself, whatever you're up against, how many other people are in it? And
yeah,
there's
true.
the fire breathing dragon, the thing that we don't want to do. But behind the fire breathing dragon is the cave of gold.
Yep,
Okay. And
yep.
so it's often the one thing we're avoiding doing that we're going to find the most amount of benefit from.
Touche. Ooh, nice one. The Dragon Slayer. Maybe it's time to dust off the old sword in all the
Yeah.
right ways.
Time to get
To
about it.
exactly, and
We
that
have
is
to arm
again,
ourselves
yep.
daily, you know, and
And
I mean,
but what
even
do you do to arm yourself? You need to
okay, sure.
sleep. You need to
Oh yeah.
sleep. You
Well,
need to hydrate. You need to eat right. You need to do the exercise. You need to maintain your muscle mass. You need to do their sort of the basic foundations, the basic domains of you rem being the best version of yourself. And if you
mm,
don't take care of them, you cannot strive for anything more than chaos. And you will stumble and fall inevitably
well,
because
um,
you're anything but your best.
yeah. Well, and most people stumbling and falling is just a normal Tuesday. Um, so so it's what needs to happen, and I've been guilty of this, where I feel like I need to do a change. So I'll do a big 3 day challenge or a big seminar or I'll do a big
Yeah.
12-week challenge,
Yeah.
but then afterwards nothing changes, right? And so the
Yeah.
when people are in fatigue, if you can just say, look, forget the big stuff, let's just do something really, really small.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an example. Let's just do a couple of minutes of breath work
Yeah.
before going to sleep. When
Yeah.
you wake up at 3 a.m., when you're getting out of bed in the morning, like the smallest of small things.
Yeah.
And those little micro habits, it's like, oh, that felt good. I'll have more. Oh, that felt good. I'll have more. And and then building up bit by bit by bit,
Mm.
you'll be surprised where you end up. And my advice, and this took me 30 years to realize, for anybody who wants to start a physical discipline, okay, especially if it's the gym, think about what you want to do, cut it in half, and then take 20% off. So if you want to go for a 2K, and I let me on this, if you want to go for a 2K walk, cut it in half to 1 kilometer, take 20% off, only walk 800 meters.
Nice one.
And do that for the first 2 or 3 months and just tell yourself,
Nice.
look, I can bleed from the eyeballs in 3 or 4 months time, but right now I'm doing less, doing less, and less, because the hardest thing is not the workout. The hardest thing is organizing everything else in your life to actually be there. And if that
Mm.
workout becomes hard, we're going to find all these other things and reason to not go to that workout. So
Love
you
it.
make that workout so freaking easy that when you leave, you're like, oh, I could have done more. Good. Because guess what? Your bow's coming back for the next time you
Mm.
do it. And all of a
Mm.
sudden
Yeah.
you've laid out your workout gear, you're getting out of bed, so trust what I just said. Listen to that again if you need to. In fact, I ask everybody to, you might need to listen to this podcast 2 or 3 times because there's a lot of content here. Um, when you're thinking about starting a physical routine, cut it in half, take 20% off,
I
even
like
if
it.
it means you get all your gear together, you go to the gym, and with your towel, you just wipe down one
Mm.
arm of the treadmill and then get back in your car and drive off. That's the start of a habit.
Yeah.
Okay. And we as humans do what's easy and comfortable, surprisingly, a lot longer than we can do the things that are hard and uncomfortable. But you'd be surprised
Yeah.
if you just keep stacking those easy, 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 before you know it, you're going to get past anything that
Mm. Yeah.
you've done, you know. So
But you also
that's sort
don't
of
you don't have to go all the time 110%. That is burnout country. I think like tonight, I knew I wanted to do a workout. I was in a pool. I swam a K. And I thought, hey, I can keep going. I can keep going. But I know on Sunday I'm in a competition. So if I now go, oh, come on, do another K. Oh, I can do another K. Uh, I will know it. I will probably not be in my best state on Sunday. So therefore, no, just do plan your life and pace it and make sure you get the rest periods in there, the good nutrition in there, the breath work in there, the meditation or deep prayer or whatever fits your belief system, all those
Mm.
micro pauses, and
And it's very,
show up for yourself. And for that, you need to listen to your body. So I could have easily done tonight far more than I did, but on purpose, I paced myself. And I
mm,
know tomorrow I will have the energy to do a normal day, and then Sunday is competition day. Good. No trouble there at all. So,
mm,
that's to be to 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 enjoy the privilege of choice, to have that, to accept the power of choice and of taking ownership of your life. That is something I'm nowadays addicted to live intentionally. And I love that. I really say, if there's one thing, if there's one legacy really that all that shit life in the past has now left me was all this post-traumatic growth and ultimately my willingness to accept responsibility and my willingness to live with intention. And I think for
mm,
that, I'm eternally grateful. That is really, wow, that what humbles me, and that for that I'm grateful, I have to say.
mm. No, and you didn't just say that, Stefan.
Mm,
You embodied that. And I think people listening would really get the vibe and frequency with which you were speaking.
mm. And if we can just do that, all of us. I mean, yeah, man, I mean, Tim, you're an amazing man. You are here, open, honest, raw. And for that, I'm so grateful to you. Tim, if people want to work with you or want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Sure. Well, if they've got a phone, all they need to do is go into their app store and do 3 words, breathwork in bed. 3 simple words that'll change your life, man. And once you're in there, it'll ask you when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up, and we take care of the rest. All
Beautiful.
right. So you'll have notifications effortlessly falling out of your phone for sleep. You'll have notifications falling out of your phone when you wake up. And be prepared to be amazed at what happens in the morning when that heavy lead feeling you feel when you're first getting out of bed.
Mm,
Breath work transforms that into gold.
nice.
And
Nice.
and there's a few bonus features in there, but I'm going to give it away. But basically, um, I want people. I can't do what you do, but if I can improve your sleep, you're going to do what you do even better.
Mm,
And like I said, this has an accumulation effect. One day, night of good sleep, a
mm,
week of good sleep, a year of good sleep. And I know for myself, it's very handy when your head's on a million miles an hour at 3 a.m. to have
mm,
a button that you can press
mm.
that it'll guide your sleep. It won't make any sense, but then it does. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And yes, so I that if they could get, because I'm not the powerful one here, but I've set up an ease of access to something powerful, which is your own breath
Mm,
through your phone, and you can literally tonight, this very night, have access to this incredible resource that's underneath your own chest cavity. And what you're going to realize is we don't own lungs, Stefan. We own a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. And when people get sovereign with their own medication,
mm.
stand back and watch them grow.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast because all of Tim's leads are down there. Um, Tim, you're an amazing man. We both are still growing. We are both are still developing. So I can't wait to see where you are going in the next year, in the next 2 years. We have got the power of choice. And because we too are living with intention, that is where the magic happens. And we are used to fear. You have literally done shitloads of fear inoculation in the past. Plus, then you went through a lot of shit in your
Hey,
civil
do you want to hear
life.
something funny?
Shoot.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
Okay, so you think as a soldier, I'd get used to fear, right?
Yeah.
Fact was, I never did, but I discovered how fear works, and fear actually has a goal, and it's not to scare you. Fear's ultimate goal is to immobilize you, right? To stop you from even trying.
Hmm.
You know, your head might say, hey, I really need to do this, but your body's like, nah, we're not doing anything, right? So this is what I discovered. The opposite of fear isn't love. The opposite of fear is action. Taking
Abs
action dispels fear, but that fear is there until you take that step and then it gets dispelled. It is you
hmm.
can genuinely say, yes, this is a fear, but the second you get in action, boom, not there.
Exactly.
You know,
Absolutely.
so that's why I'm a big fan getting in action. And conversely, when you're not in action, when you're not
Yeah.
moving your physical body,
Yeah.
fear grows, you know?
So true.
So,
So
so,
true.
so yeah. I hope that
See,
that served you and yours.
oh, absolutely. But isn't it amazing? Here we are, complete different upbringings, complete different lives, yet after a lifetime of shit, we both come to exactly the same principles, the same way of life. And that is so amazing. So, and on the flip side, if two numbnuts like us can get our shit together against all odds, okay, there is hope. There is hope. Whoever is watching, listening, guys, there is hope. Okay. Oh man, Tim, thank you
I love it,
so
Stephen. This
much.
has probably been the most fun podcast I've been on.
Oh, thank you, brother. I so appreciated your time and your passion. And yeah, fantastic. I think we might as well book ourselves in a year's time to do another podcast because you and
I
I
want to
will be
hear
different
people
men.
listening. If you've enjoyed this, message Stefan. If you want me back on, message him, let's phone up, and I'll come back on. Actually, I'm remember we actually said we're going to do some breathing. Do you have a minute?
Oh shit, yeah. Go for it. Yes. I
Okay,
thought
because
you
I
you
don't want to promise something and not deliver.
go
Okay,
for it.
so this
No,
is this is
I'm in.
this is going to be really, really simple. I'm going to give people at home something that within 3 breaths, you'll be able to completely relax your body.
Hmm.
Breathwork isn't hard, but because we've been doing whole lives with certain habits. So to get out of that habit, it might feel a bit awkward, but that's okay. And uh, my only request is you've got to be in a safe place for this, either seated, laying down, be driving, nothing that you could hurt yourself in, no bodies of water. So all we're going to do, and if you could allow me to coach you, Stefan,
Absolutely.
is just breathe into where you normally breathe into, and then breathe in again and again and again.
Stacking so that.
Yeah. All right. So where you breathe into your normal inhale, we'll call that
Mhm.
your primary inhale.
Yeah.
And where you breathe in again and again, we'll call that your secondary inhale.
Mhm.
Okay. So you got your
Okay.
primary and your secondary. Now, you didn't know this. Yeah, give it a try. Just breathe in and then breathe in again. Find that secondary inhale. Give that a try at home for those people trying it. Okay. Feel there's a secondary inhale in there. Very good. Now I'm going to show you, because that's not a muscle group you're normally using. I'm going to show you, you didn't know this, but you've got a turbo button in your thumb and fingers. So I want you to sort of have your thumb with your two fingers, like you're trying to pinch something, and when we breathe in, we'll breathe in our primary inhale, but when it comes to the secondary inhale, I want you to drive your finger like you're pinching something really hard,
Mhm.
and that will turbo boost your secondary inhale.
Mhm.
So just let it all out, relax your fingers, breathe in on your own strength, and when it comes to the secondary, hit power buttons. All right, just let that go now. Now, did anyone notice hitting those little power buttons, you could get a little more in? Okay. So we're just going to make that nice and smooth. Now we're going to breathe in and then hit those power buttons and get that secondary inhale
Mhm.
opened up. Awesome. and just gently let it out. Very good, very good. You're probably feeling a bit more relaxed now. So now we're going to juice that up even more. Think of your power buttons in your chin for a second. That forms a triangle. Okay, power buttons and chin, right? And this is going to be like you're creating a power triangle. Now I'm going to give a demonstration. So when it comes to your secondary inhale, we're going to hit our power buttons and we're going to raise our chin, raise our chin, raise our chest. Okay, so I'll give you a demonstration when you go raise our chin, raise our chest, really roll our eyeballs up.
Love it.
Okay,
Love it.
so in your own time, breathe out. And then breathe in, then hit your power buttons, raise your chin, look at the ceiling. Raise your chin, open, 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 and just let that fall out when you're ready. All right. Feeling good?
I love the technique. I love the
We're only
technique.
halfway there. We're only halfway there. We've only done half our lungs, right?
Okay.
So what I want you to do now is we're going to breathe in, hit the power buttons, raise the chin, hold it, and we're going to wriggle it around like trying to stretch it out. Okay. And then we're going to let it fall from our upper chest through our middle chest, and we're going to allow ourselves to roll down.
Mhm.
Okay. And we're going to roll it from our upper chest into our belly. And we're going to hold our belly. We're going to pressurize it because down low, down in our belly, we have the most blood exchange with our air sacs, our alveoli. So we're going to hit our turbo buttons, raise the chin, squeeze it around, and then let it fall down, 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 push it down low, pressurize it. And here's the kicker. You try and squeeze it out, but your mouth stops it. And you let it out with a sound as long as you can. Cool, cool.
Mhm.
So if everyone at home, have your power button ready, ready to breathe and raise your chin. Breathing in. Hit your power buttons, raise your chin, raise your chin. Now hold your breath. Hold your breath. Now wriggle your shoulders, wriggle your shoulders. That should feel really good. Now just let your head collapse down. Hold your breath, hold your breath, hold your breath. Let it collapse down. Put it right down in your belly. And once it's pushed all the way down, then you let it out super slow, like shh. And we're going to do that 3 times. Okay. So the trick is you hold it, hold it, push it down low, and you let it out super slow when it's down low. Cool, cool. So 2 more times. Ready. When you're ready, breathing in, hit your power buttons, raise up your chin. Now hold your breath, wriggle it around, then just let it gently let your upper body just collapse down. Feel it pushing into your belly. Hold your belly, and then let it out super slow, super slow, super slow, super slow. And then when you're ready, last one. Let's make this one really good. Breathing in, hit your power buttons. Feel how you're more open. You can hold it. You can just let it fall into your belly, into your belly. Let your upper body just relax. Let everything relax and fall away. Let your upper body relax, fall away, holding your belly with your hands, letting out a hissing noise, letting it out long as possible. And at the end of it, just hold, keep sort of hunched over. Just hold at the end and let your body relax. How you feeling?
I love it. I love it. That's a really nice, cool exercise. Why?
Yeah.
Because when we are in fight and flight, we are going like that. We're hunching up.
Mm-hmm.
What you just did is you're opening up. You're completely changing your state. You're completely changing everything. You're loosening things. That's the last thing you would do in a fight. You would be tensing up and being ready. So there you go. You're actually completely changing physical state, plus then utilizing the breath and in fact, actually muscular contraction. So you're actually getting rid of the anxiety this way. Like it lots. good combination of really using the muscles of relaxation and contraction, yin and yang, using it all together with breath. Beautiful technique. Love it. I might just have to try that a few times.
Well, you can do it a lot more subtly. Like if I'm out in the world feeling
Mm,
frustrated, this pinching of my fingers, that
mm.
becomes my circuit breaker. So if
Nice
there's
one.
stuff in my head
Yeah.
that I don't want there, okay, because this breathing up here,
Mm.
this I call your breath of possibility. Things start feeling impossible, breathe possibility into it. Okay. And that's so it's my circuit breaker. And then when I push down low,
Yeah.
that's my breath of peace.
Yeah.
Okay. So up here is my possibility, down low is
Yeah.
my peace.
Yeah.
And if you can treat that as your medication. So when I
Absolutely.
was on addicted to pills, I had pills not just in the medicine cabinet, I had it in my car, in the fruit bowl, in the fridge. And I would, because I'd always be self-medicating. So now I use my breath. People say, how
Mm,
much do you breathe? And I'm like, I use it to self-medicate. So whenever I need it, it's
mm,
right there,
mm.
And again, nobody knows about this sort of stuff because no one's making money. And that's why I'm on a
Absolutely.
mission to have people connect into that
Absolutely.
space.
Absolutely. And it is, it might feel the very first time you're doing things like that,
Oh,
you might feel like an absolute idiot. But in actual fact, if you were to take a Superman, let's say you're depressed and you're really, really down, it actually takes quite a lot of work. If you think
yeah.
about it, to be depressed, you need to hunch over. You need to sort of really be down and just really go like that. Whilst, if you now were to take the opposite, like a Superman stance,
Hmm.
looking up, similar to what we have just done, it's very hard to be depressed when you're standing like that. You're just going through those emotions without you actually even saying anything, by you just taking that stance. You're telling your body some very powerful messages that didn't need a word to be said. You are talking directly to the subconscious with what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just doing there. Powerful shit, I have to say. Powerful shit. Well done, Tim. Tim, thank you so much. You're an amazing man. You're amazing. Look after yourself and live
Will
with
do.
intention. Okay?
Okay. I'm going to give you and everybody listening my audiobook as well. So I'll put that link in the chat so that you hear it and you can get some extra deep insight about
Oh,
all the things
beautiful.
breath work in bed. Yeah, no worries.
Beautiful. Guys, look down there. It's all down there. And once you're down there, press the like and subscribe button and tell your friends about it because this was an amazing show. Tim, thank you so much. Look after yourself.
No, thank you, Stefan.
Bye.